So in the previous session, we had a discussion about a particular application and we had a look into the requirements, right? And even I have explained about certain requirements. Overall about the project, we got an idea for now. Okay, we got an idea for now about the complete project. Okay, so whatever the project is, we got a complete idea on that full lengthy project now. And on top of this one, that covers test planning phase, test analysis phase. So what are we doing testers as a testers? What are we doing as part of this test analysis phase? Test analysis phase in which we will analyze the requirements. We will try to understand the requirements one after another. Complete customer requirements we will try to understand. We will open one requirement, we will understand it. We will open another requirement, you will understand it. Slowly, one after another, all the customer requirements we will try to understand them. Okay, that's what the most important thing is with this particular. Okay, that's what the most important thing is with this particular analysis. Once we are done with this analysis, the next phase is the test design phase. In the test design phase, we will be creating the test cases. Okay, so we will be creating the test cases and test scenarios as part of this. For a tester, this test design phase is the most important thing, guys. Okay, so why this design phase is the most important thing for any tester? What is the reason behind that? The reason behind this test design phase is after analysis, we will list down the points which needs to be tested. Okay, we will list down the points that needs to be tested as part of this particular design phase. Okay, as part of this particular design phase, we just need to list down the things, what exactly we can test on an application. Those design, we call it as either a test cases or test scenarios we use it to design. Earlier, we use it to design a test cases and as well as a test scenarios. First, you will create a scenario, followed by you will create a cases. But now these days, majority of the organizations are creating test cases itself. So then what is a test case? What to test and how to test in the application? What to test and how to test in an application, we call it as a test case, guys. So you will be documenting them what to test and how to test in a particular application. We call it as a test case. We can also call it as a test case is a combination of precondition, description, steps to perform, and expected result. The combination of all these things, we call it as a test case. A test case comprises of all these things, guys. Okay, good. So as part of a manual testing, we will be creating these test cases itself. As part of this manual testing, you will create these test case. You will create these test cases itself. Okay, fine. Done the deal. Then the next point that we need to consider here is once after we are here, let any organization has their own template. Any organ any organization has their own template. Okay, we just need to follow that template and we just need to implement it. Okay, good. Done the deal. Just a second, guys. Just a second. Okay, so as I have mentioned, test cases and test scenarios, they don't have a unique and a common template. As per the organization needs, they can customize their own templates. Their own templates, they can customize. Okay, so if that's the case, this template, whatever I have shown, is used in my previous organization. So this is not the one that we are using right now. So we've been using a different thing right now. Not this template, but this is a basic template that we have already used in our previous organization. Okay, good. And then the next point that we need to consider here is, okay, so how exactly we need to deal with it? Okay, the next point which we need to consider is I need to focus on, okay, so I need to focus on this particular, okay, which one? I just need to focus on this test case template. So how this test case template looks like and how exactly you can write down any particular test case. So if you see right now, this is what the template that we have in our test cases. Okay. And I need to write down these test cases here. So the first one is a test case ID. Every test case will have a unique ID. You just need to pass on that unique ID and a precondition. Every test case has a precondition. We just need to follow that particular precondition. So precondition, an example for that one is, assume that I want to travel on a flight. So the precondition is having a boarding pass is a precondition. Okay, the test case a description. Every test case has its own description. We just need to pass on that description here. Steps. What are all the steps we guys need to follow in order to complete this particular test case will be listed down. Expected result. What is the result that we are expecting from this particular test case, from this requirement? The combination of all these things, we call it as a test case. And another thumb rule that we need to consider here is whenever we are creating test cases, we need to keep in mind about all the black box testing techniques that we learn. Okay, we have learned certain black box testing techniques, equivalence class partition, boundary value analysis, decision table analysis. All these are techniques we have learned. So we just need to consider those techniques. Okay, so we just need to consider those techniques and we just need to, okay, we just need to keep those techniques in our mind and then we can write down the test cases. Okay, the reason is these, okay, the reason is these black box techniques we will be using down while writing and while executing the test cases. That's the reason it's mandatory for us to keep these techniques in mind before writing down the test cases. And then once we are done up to here, then the next point here is whenever you are done up to here, then let us start writing down the test cases. So the scenario that I'm giving for you to write down a test case is write a test cases for Gmail login functionality. So you know how the Gmail login functionality will work, right? If user enters a valid credentials, then login, else login failed, right? You know this particular thing. Now you need to write down a test cases for this chunk itself. Okay, so how exactly we are going to write down the test cases is the most important thing. So this lock-in functionality, I can implement a one black box testing technique. Can anyone tell me which technique we have learned can be used here as part of this black box testing technique as part of this test case creation? Anyone? So let me list down the techniques. Equivalence class partition, boundary value analysis, decision table analysis, state transaction, and a use case analysis. Now, can any one of you tell me which technique we can use here for this login functionality? Deepa, Satyendra, Raj, and Gayatri. Any one of you? No idea?
What about the STA, state transaction analysis?
State transaction analysis. Okay, that's fine. We will be using that. Other than that, one will be used. That's a mandatory thing. So let me show
People
you.
The
employ.
boundary value analysis to make sure the username and password should not allow the characters that are like the limitation.
Sorry, which one?
The boundary value analysis,
Uh,
second one.
no, not the boundary value analysis. So we will be
Return
focused.
class partition.
No. See here, let me remind you this equivalence class partition. Whenever the data is in a multiple sets, in such situation, if you have a multiple sets of data, then use it. Okay. If you have any conditions based on a few numbers, use this. If there are forms, and if you want to test with Boolean and conditions, use this. And this one, regular flow, will be covered in last, fourth, and fifth. For this decision table analysis, if you guys remember, I've shown an example. A, B, A and B, and even I compared it with a username, password, and a login status also. If A is a true, B is a true, A and B is a true. If any one of these things is a false, the outcome is a false. That's what we have discussed. If you compare this one with the login functionality, if username and a password is valid, then only the login will be success. If any one of these things is invalid, the login status would be failed, right? So in such situations, we will be using this decision table analysis. Okay, so we will be using this decision table analysis as part of this particular technique, right? Got it now, or any questions on this? Why we need to use this decision? So
Yeah, got
test
it.
case 0001. I'm just giving a unique name, and here user should be on okay, so user should be on a Gmail login screen. And then what is the test case description? Verify Gmail login with valid credentials. Whatever the Gmail login functionality is there, verify it with a valid credentials. What is the steps? Open the application, enter the username, enter password, click on a login button, observe the page. So whenever you enter a valid credentials to your Gmail, what is your expected behavior, guys? Inbox page should display, right? So if you are entering username and a password as a valid one, the inbox page will display for you. That's what your actual expected result is. As you know, the actual result we will be verifying once we got an application for testing. And then the next thing is test case 002. Again, user should be on a login screen. User should enter the invalid credentials he can try. How the application will work. Whenever the user is entering any invalid credentials, the login should fail. Error message should display. That's it. So this is the thing how you need to create a test cases. Now, a scenario for your practice is write a test cases for Salesforce login screen. See, the test cases will not change, guys. Okay, here we are using a Gmail application. There you need to update it with a Salesforce application.
That's it. Nothing more than that. See here, login.salesforce.com. For this screen, I want you to write down the test cases. Whatever the test cases we have created right now, you can still use the same test cases itself. Wherever the Gmail is there, you will be replacing with an Salesforce login. That's it. So this is what an assignment for your practice for now. Okay. And once you are done with this assignment, in the next session, we will be focusing on the yesterday's application that we have discussed, and I will be explaining about that application itself, guys. Okay, good. Done the deal. Let me take a pause here for today. Okay, and we'll continue in the next session.